Greetings, everyone. This is She Speaks Life with Laquisha Robinson. Thank you all for joining me on today. So today's our question and answer. Our question is, how do you tell when you're spiritual versus standoffish versus being shy? Now, all three of these things can be similar in how they function, or at least how they begin. So I'll talk a little bit about them so I can give some clarity on how to understand which one you are, and then also give you some help on how to overcome if you're standoffish or shy. Okay, so let's get into it. Now, if you're a spiritual person, it just simply means that you're in tune with the things that's going on around you. You are feeling and sensing and tapping into things that people aren't seeing, aren't sensing, and aren't tapping into, okay? So that's what it means to be spiritual. Now, in most cases, when you're spiritual, when you, what I like to call, when you're assessing a scene, okay, or you're checking the vibes out of everybody around you, and also know this is something that happens naturally. When you get in the midst, when you're a spiritual person, when the moment you step in the midst of somebody who's new, you instantly begin to pick them up. You instantly begin to be able to read them, to feel them out, to sense who they are, to know who they are. It's not this, what I'm talking about is not something that you asked for. It's not something that, you prayed about to see if you could get it. It's just something that's naturally, it's always been there. Now, a lot of people who are spiritual, okay, you will find them when they get in crowds of people or in unfamiliar territory. You will notice them become quiet. Okay, now this doesn't always have to be the case, but I'm just, giving you a scenario. Most of the time, they're going to get quiet. They'll respond in a sense, but they're going to be quiet. The reason why they're being quiet is because they're picking up the energies and the vibes from everybody that's around them. And sometimes, you all, it can be very overwhelming, okay, depending on how many people are around you, okay. Sometimes it can feel like you just want to say, okay, I'll talk to y'all tomorrow and just, get out of there. So, and I'm being honest with you all. So when you're spiritual, if you notice you get quiet around certain people, a group of people, or a massive amount of people, you're not shy and you're not standoffish. If you can attest to what I'm saying, where you're picking up energies and vibes, and you're understanding how to operate in the situation that you're in or that you're going to be in, you're simply just being fed the information that you need, okay? And I'm not going to go deep into that. I'm going to put a pin in that and leave it where it's at. But if you are a person who operates like this, no, you are not shy. You're not standoffish. You will communicate with people. You do communicate with people. But there is a certain way that you have to carry yourself. There is a certain way that you go into something, and there's a certain way that you come out of something. Also, let me add, people who get quiet, people who aren't always engaging a lot of people or around a lot of people. Every time somebody say, hey, let's do this, let's do that, and they're saying, okay, all right, okay, it's because they're protecting their energy, okay, and their energy is not being protected because it's just for them, but they have spiritual work that they do. Even when they go outside, they're giving so much of themselves that normal people or people who haven't tapped in or even became aware of who they are spiritually, they wouldn't understand this. So they put a label on you, or they label you in a way that you shouldn't be labeled. But even so, you have to accept it, because when somebody doesn't understand them, you can't fault or blame them for that, okay? Also, what you'll find about a person who's spiritual, they will be a lot of times the life of the party. So where a person once was like, oh, you're quiet, you were standoffish, or you really didn't say too much, you'll notice these people, they can grab a massive amount of people and cause them to follow them. They can get a crowd of people going and engaged and entertained with very little effort, okay? But there's a certain way that spiritual people have to carry themselves, okay? Most likely these people were already activated when they came out their parents' wombs, okay? And so it's overwhelming, especially when you're young and you're taking in all this and receiving all of this and not understanding what it is. So when you do grow up and you finally understand, okay, this is why I'm feeling this, operating like this, and this is why I have to operate like this, it's overwhelming. It can be scary until you tap into who you are and embrace it. Also, once you do, you start learning to where it's your protection, it's your shield. And I don't, let me stop there because I need to, okay? So I won't go any further with that. Now let's talk about if you're shy or standoffish. Now, a person can be standoffish because they're taken into a crowd of people that they do not know, that they're unfamiliar with, and they're unsure of how these people are going to act or perceive them, so they may be standoffish. As people begin to embrace them, they begin to loosen up, they begin to come forth, you begin to see a whole new them, okay? Because now they're comfortable with the people that they thought, I don't know how they're going to be with me. So when they see, oh, they're going to be like this with me, they'll open up, and you really won't have that standoffishness. Now, a lot of times you do have people too, and I'm going to add this, where they can be stuck up, in a sense to where you would say, why you acting like you all of that? It's a different if I'm standoffish because I'm uncomfortable temporarily around my surroundings, but if I continue to just act like, oh, I'm all of this, or you all, you are beneath me, then that's a stuck up person. And it's kind of like, believe me, you probably are not the type of person, the way you see yourself, a lot of people probably don't see you like that. So you need to, as people would say, you need to break yourself, okay? So that's a standoffish person, and that doesn't mean that they're just standoffish because there's nothing else to do. They're just kind of waiting to be loosened up a little bit, okay? If you are a shy person, though, I'm going to venture to say that there was something that happened in your past or in your growing up that led to shyness coming on, which shyness really is just a form of you being afraid to go forth, be you, speak your truth, okay? If it occurred when you were a child, most likely every time you try to speak or every time you felt you had something important to say, you were always kind of told, be quiet, sit down, you tell me in a minute, not now. And when you went back, it was like, okay, no, we don't have time for this, or I don't have time for this. So as you grew up, you kind of felt like there's no need for me to speak because nobody want to hear me. And when people ask you something, you don't really believe that they want to hear what you have to say because of, certain ways that you have been raised up. Also, if you were made to feel like what you had to say wasn't important as other children, then you'll also fall in the form of a person who operate shy when they grow up. Okay, also, sometimes people don't even know how to communicate properly with other people because of how they've been affected growing up in their childhood. And so if they feel like something is if they feel like I don't want to hear you, they just can have to feel it. It doesn't even have to be true, but if they feel it, they'll back all the way up and become shy themselves or become standoffish until they know how you may perceive them or receive them, and then they'll begin to come forth. So let's talk about how you deal with shyness. Okay, and let me say one more thing. Some people could be dealing with shyness if you were in a relationship and maybe it was abusive physically and verbally, and then you got out of it, and now when you walking forth in you're afraid to speak your truth or be you because there was a form of hurt and damage that took place that made you feel like nothing I have to say is important, so let me be quiet. Now, to deal with shyness, number one is to accept who you are, okay? And knowing that what you have to say, what you want to do, what you think, what you feel, all of that is important. So first, embrace those things, okay? Anything that you shy away from, learn to embrace it, okay? As you learn to embrace it when you in situations, because if you're changing and you're growing, you will be, once you make up your mind that, hey, I'm going to be changed, I'm going to be a different me, you will be presented with opportunities that will cause you to change, all right? So speak your truth, speak your voice, okay? Use your voice. Don't be afraid to say an answer if you know it, even if it's incorrect, all right? And if somebody asks you something you don't know, don't shy away. Be bold and say, well, I'm not sure of what that means, or I'm not sure the answer, but could you tell me? Because I would like to learn and I would like to know it. So to overcome your shyness, you have to face your fears or face the things that you've backed away from. Okay, so that's how you deal with shyness. Now, dealing with being standoffish is just simple. If you feel like you have to continue to get used to your environment before you start to engage, that's just what you feel, then hey, that's you. Also, you could try you all just going into the scene or wherever you are, and just naturally be you, okay? Those who like you will, those who won't, or those who want to engage you at the time will, and the ones who don't won't. So it's really not a issue if you're standoffish just because you need to warm up, okay? If you're standoffish from everybody all the time, or you will not engage another person, you could possibly be dealing with what I also spoke about when you kind of feel like you're sedity or everybody's beneath you, and you think in your mind you're more than that, when in reality, if this is really how you think and how you feel, most people are probably looking at you like, if she only knew what she really looked like, or what she really is, or how she really is, because of the way she's portraying herself, she clearly wouldn't do that, okay, or he wouldn't do that. So those are those two. If you are spiritual and you have to operate, if you have to operate a certain way, don't stop being you, because if you open yourself up to change because somebody say, why you don't do this, you need to go here and do that, you could open up yourself for attacks that you're unaware of. Now, I'm not telling you not to continue to grow spiritually and move and grow spiritually on a continual basis, but I'm just saying, If you're created to operate a certain way, it will advance, but don't feel like I have to change my whole route just because I appear to people a certain way. And it's even okay to tell them. You don't have to share with them who you are or how you operate, but you could just share with them, you're right, I do operate like this and I do act like this, but everything is for a reason, so I would appreciate if you would accept me and embrace me for who I am, and you can leave it alone at that, and it'll be it is what it is. So that's our question and answer for today. I hope that I was able to shed some light and give you all some information. If you have any further questions, feel free to comment and I'll answer your questions. Thank you all for joining me, and until we meet again, always remember to operate in love, peace, and joy.